Jay Zimbler and Steve Lux, and any of the grandchildren that would like to be pallbearers to please come up to the hearse.
Where do you want to sit? Where pick any spot?
I want to wait, but like wherever she sits.
You and brother-in-law and
You want to be a pallbearer?
Whatever it is. Yes, they do.
Okay,
We said
go
they
on.
were in case. I'm just a cousin.
Okay.
Okay?
Sorry, there's a big, He wants, they want to be pallbearers.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, it's okay. Thank you for letting me know. Because you don't know you want to step on me.
Yes, definitely. Donna, you definitely.
Sit down. I'm going to be good. Okay.
Sam won't tell because of the ground, Donna. So I think it's very fitting that the Mennonites are right here.
Oh, yeah, they're here. They're right where they're.
No, he's super cute.
Can I ask everybody that has a cell phone to please place it into silent mode at this time? The funeral service will be conducted by Rabbi Margaret Frisch Klein.
I'm not as tall as Lloyd. I feel like this almost doesn't need to be said anymore, but we are following the health department guidelines for COVID-19, both here and whatever is appropriate, wherever you are joining us from on the webcast. As you painfully know, the people joining on webcast can't see that the immediate family is sitting right here all together, and then we've got people scattered. So can you hear in the way back? Yes, okay. Just want to make sure that that's possible. The Jewish people respond to death with 3 words of blessing. Immediately on hearing of the death of a loved one, we say these words and we tear our clothes because our hearts themselves are so very torn. Some of you were given black ribbons. You can tear them now as we say these words together. Baruch Dayan Ha'emet. Blessed is the judge of truth.
I gave it. You as the sister wear it on the right side. Hold it all the way. Rabbi, the ribbons get taken off now. Friday night.
This is Judaism, so people argue about everything. Some people wear it just until Shabbat. Some people wear it for a full week, for all of Shiva. Oh, because of Pesach, yes, and some people wear it all of Shloshim, regardless of Pesach, and some people wear it for a year. Mine usually fall off on an airplane, just saying. It may seem odd to begin with words of blessing because this is not the outcome that anybody wanted or hoped for. But let us begin, all of us saying that together. Baruch Dayan Ha'emet. Blessed is the judge of truth. Adonai Natan v'Adonai Lekach, Yehi Shem Adonai Mevarach. The Lord has given, the Lord has taken. Blessed is the name of the Lord. We are assembled here with our friends and Marcia's family in the darkness in this almost rainy day. I'll be careful. That has fallen upon us. Yet again, we raise our voices together with the source of life, asking for comfort and strength. We need light when gloom darkens our lives. We need fortitude and courage when pain and loss assail us. May we find these in God. Let us find them too in loved ones and companions who do God's work by binding up the wounds of the stricken. Who among us has not passed through trials and bereavements? Some bear fresh wounds in their hearts, and I almost wanted to take that out of this one because this is the third death in this family in the last year. So you all definitely feel more keenly the kinship of sorrow. Others whose days of mourning are more remote still recall the comfort that sympathy brought to your sorrowing hearts. May our sharing of sorrow and memory today and our deeds of solace bring comfort to you. In your folio, it is Psalm 23. You can read this together. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. You make me lie down in green pastures. You lead me beside still waters. You restore my soul. You guide me in straight paths for your name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anointed my head with oil, my cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of God forever. I lift up my eyes to the mountains, though there aren't any here in Aurora. What is the source of my help? My help comes from the Lord, maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot give way. Your protector will not slumber. See, the protector of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. God is your guardian. God is your protection at your right hand. The sun will not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. God will guard you from all harm. God will guard your soul, your going and your coming, now and forever. Many times when we gather at a time like this, there are somebody or some ones who have become the caregiver. And that task, sadly, is now over. but here is a prayer for the caregiver. Unknown and often unnoticed, you are heroes nonetheless. For your love and sacrifice is God at his best. You walk by faith in the darkness of the great unknown. Your courage, even in weakness, gives life to your beloved. You hold shaking hands and provide the ultimate care for those of you on webcast. They're all sitting in the front row holding hands even now. Your presence, the knowing that you are simply there. You rise to face the giant of disease and despair. It is your finest hour, though you may be unaware. You are resilient, amazing, and beauty unexcelled. You are the caregivers, and you have done well. A woman of valor. Who can find? For her price is far above rubies. The heart of her husband safely trusts in her, and he has no lack of gain. She does him good and not evil all the days of her life. She seeks wool and flax and works willingly with her hands. She is like the merchant ships. She brings her food from afar. She rises while it is yet night and gives food to her household and a portion to her maidens. She considers a field and buys it. With the fruit of her hand she plants a vineyard. She girds her loins with strength and makes strong her arms. She perceives that her merchandise is good. Her lamp goes out, not at night. She lays her hands to the distaff and her hands hold the spindle. She stretches out her hand to the poor. Yea, she reaches forth her hands to the needy. She is not afraid of the snow for her household, for all her household are clothed with scarlet. She makes for herself coverlets. Her clothing is fine linen and purple. Her husband is known in the gates when he sits among the elders of the land. She makes linen garments and sells them and delivers girdles to the merchant. Strength and dignity are her clothing, and she laughs at the time to come. She opens her mouth with wisdom, and the law of kindness is on her tongue. She looks well to the ways of her household and eats not the bread of idleness. Her children rise up and call her blessed. Her husband also and praises her. Many daughters have done valiantly, but you excel them all. Grace is deceitful and beauty is vain, but a woman that fears the Lord, she shall be praised. Give her the fruit of her hands, and let her works praise her in the gates. Eshet Chayil, a woman of valor. That was Marcia, who looked well to the ways of her household. She wished she had become a teacher, but as Mark always told her, she was the best teacher there was. And the proof of that is right here and streaming here today. You all are her precious legacy. When we were meeting Sunday, there were lots of stories about her cooking. Favorites like chopped herring, chopped liver, chopped spinach, siblas, which were a new one for me that I found a recipe for this morning. Those onion cookies that apparently everyone loves. Corned beef and cabbage, spaghetti with meat sauce, rugelach, the list goes on and on. I hope somebody has the recipes. Oh wait, there are no recipes because she cooked without recipes. So hopefully somebody went and watched that Essenfeld stuffing being made, for example. Because, you know, you have to do what it feels like or tastes like because she cooked by feel. But make no mistake, that cooking was merely a vehicle for her generosity and her kindness and her love. She was generous with her love, and she would often say, I would give my right arm to do whatever. Her life, I think, must not have always been easy. A Depression baby born in either 1929 or 1930 asked Heidi about the 2 birth certificates. She's the only one I know that has 2 birth certificates. She could make something out of nothing. Sewing dresses, shopping for deals, places like TJ Maxx were her haunts. She was even a personal shopper ahead of her time. But if one shirt was good, she might as well buy 6 of the same one. She was frugal, but she wasn't crazy about it. She wasn't crazy over the top about it. don't get me wrong, frugal, but with style. She was classy, wearing those scarves just right, even at Tabor Hills. Tabor Hills, something else. Tabor Hills. She loved decorating and fashion and jewelry. As you all know better than I, she grew up in New York, but she met Erwin, who got a job out here in Aurora, and so they moved to Illinois. Park Forest, because back in the day it had a kosher butcher. At first she hated the Midwest, so they moved back to New York. But eventually they settled right here in Aurora, becoming ensconced in the Jewish community. While she was active and president of the Sisterhood, and I think the Council of Jewish Women, organizing all those New Year's Eve parties, she was not religious per se. Rather, this is where her social life was, right here. Her adopted Midwest family, the 4 couples in the Pinnacle Club, and Kathy and Howard, the local adopted grandparents. Together, they raised the 3 of you, Edie, Jane, and Mark. And while she was embedded in Aurora, family vacations were always back in New York, because that's where the family was. In the family car or on a bus, singing all those patriotic songs like This Land Is Your Land or America the Beautiful. Sister Barbara, who was out here recently, had 9 kids. And Trudy, I think you have 4. And Jerry has 2 sons. And so there was always a simcha to go to. Always a simcha to go to. A bar mitzvah, a bat mitzvah, a wedding to attend, something. And so everybody went every summer. And as Trudy said, Marcia spanned the old generation to the new generation. Their mother was old country, even though she was born here in the States. Marcia was that new, modern, new world with great mothering presence to Trudy, who, did I get this right, 7 years younger?
13 and a half years.
13 and a half years younger?
I was a baby.
I missed a generation all by itself.
Father was 7.
Okay. And yet, Marcia's Yiddishkeit, that culture, was such a big part of her life, it's even hard to talk about it. Those traditions were her entrance into family time. And she rejoiced as the family grew, to include Jay and Steve and Donna. And all the grandchildren and great-grandchildren. My, how she loved the babies. Her best role was as a grandma. Grandma, Bubby, what was she called? Grandma, okay. And she loved playing with all of you, coloring, Play-Doh, dolls, teaching you Scrabble. That's a really important skill, don't mistake that. And even as recently as 3 weeks ago, Liz visited from Iowa, and she was reaching out for the baby. It was the first time we'd seen a smile apparently in a while. She got such joy out of those babies. She was clear though. She loved family, but she didn't want to do childcare per se. Nonetheless, she helped out on weekends, providing much respite, a vacation if you will, for this growing family. She would come every Wednesday and bring you lunch, right? And would tutor some of the kids in your school. Yeah. And then she would go home with you and make dinner. But those dinners were enough to last for 2 dinners, maybe 3. That's just part of how she would help out. She just loved to play with the kids. That wasn't childcare. I'll wait for a second. So they're gone. And it was a growing family, as you can see by who's gathered here today. It was really described as one family. She made them one family. The Essenfelds and the Zimblers were one. That's where the description began the other day with me. They were all inseparable, as you seem to be now. She got such joy out of that expanding family. It was really all about family. She had high standards of behavior and ethics, She felt that your behavior was a reflection of her mothering skills. And you had to behave correctly whether you liked the other people or not. She was a classic woman of valor. She opened her mouth with wisdom, and the law of kindness was on her tongue. She leaves that as a legacy for each of you. She was, in fact, wise, smart, really smart, loved to read. Jane has a collection of books. She hasn't read them all, but she dreams of it someday. She didn't have the opportunity to go to college, although she might have done a few community college classes. No, she was really smart, with a fabulous memory, leading her to become a life master in duplicate bridge. Something I'll never figure out, ever. In her heyday, she could remember every card played. And while there were not many joys in those later years, she worked really hard to hold on to that memory, even beating Jane in Scrabble at Tabor Hills. I'm told that going out for Chinese was something she enjoyed. Over the years, the restaurants changed, but my favorite story of all of those stories was the one, I think that it was in Aurora, the Paradise. Yes, here in Aurora? If you called to order and asked, is this paradise? The answer would be, no, it sure ain't. But I can imagine her now in the real Gan Eden paradise, enjoying some Chinese food or brisket or roast chicken with your dad as we prepare for the upcoming Passover, or playing a hand of pinochle or duplicate bridge. Passover is about freedom. The last few years she had been trapped. She is free now. I've told you some of the stories that I gathered of this Aisha Chayil, a true woman of valor. Smart, caretaking, creative, loving. But the way we keep her memory alive, her legacy, is in telling those stories. So I invite you to Shiva later today. I already have the link. Somebody sent it to me late last night. It's at 3:30 Central Time, to tell more of those stories, especially to the children and the great-grandchildren, because that's how we keep her memory and her spirit and her creativity and her loving alive. May the memory of Marcia, we just had this conversation, Jay. May the memory of Marcia endure among us as a blessing. In your own time, O God, when we too are called to eternity, may we leave this life secure in the faith that in your light we too shall see light. In life and death we cannot go where you are not, and where you are, hope endures. Sustained by this assurance, we invoke your name, Almighty God. Now, as I have said too many times this year, every cemetery, every funeral home has changed the rules every time between one burial and the next. Today is no exception to that. Because we have a tent up for the inclement weather, we have to change how we ordinarily would do the burial itself. So what we're going to do is we're going to sprinkle the dirt from the land of Israel. Did she ever get to Israel? Did she ever get to Israel? No. So she'll be buried with some of Israel with her. And then we will lower the casket. Yes? And we'll say El Male and Kaddish. And then they have to take the tent down in order to put the vault on before we can do the rest of the day. Correct.
So we brought out some extra earth from Israel. We'll start with the children. If you'll sprinkle a little bit of the earth into the Star of David so it doesn't blow away. And then anybody else
and
that
I would caution you all, there's plywood underneath, just be careful.
just a little bit and then pass it. And then if Trudy, have you wished to do it? And Jay, Steve, and Donna, if you wish to do it. They did. They did.
I thought I saw that.
Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, you're all invited to put some earth in. Sherry, my wife, over here, please go and see her. She's got more packets of earth from Israel. Maybe it would be best if you just kind of filed by the casket, put some on, pass it back to the person behind you, and then continue out in this manner. Yes. Come and you're welcome to it. I want you all to know that there's 15 devices signed on with you today. And I happen to notice 21 people here, so that's 36. Of course, there's probably more than 15, but 36 being double five.
Double five.
You can just place it on top of the stone if you wish. Or on top of the vault is fine too. Is there anybody else that wishes to do this? Hey, Rabbi.
We'll continue now with the El Malay Rachamim, the middle prayer. I invite you to rise as you're able. Then we'll do Kaddish, and we'll let the grounds crew do their part, and then we'll reconvene to pray. El Malay Rachamim, Shochem Bamromim, Hamse Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanfecha Shchina. In Kedoshim and Taharim, Kizohara Kiyama Zirim, Et Nishmat, Ashabat Yehuda Ber Basara, Shachalacha Laolama, Rachamim Yisrareha, Beseter Kanach Laolamim, Rachamim Yitzrei, V'yotzer HaChayim, Et Nishmata, Adonai v'nachalata, v'tanuach b'shalom al mishkava, v'nomar Amen. God, full of compassion, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and the pure to the soul of Masha Bat Yehuda Ber V'Sara, Marcia Essenfeld, who has gone to her eternal home. Merciful One, we ask that our loved one find perfect peace in your eternal embrace, under the protection of your wings. May her soul be bound up in the bond of life. May she rest in peace, and let us say, Amen. Kaddish can be found on your folio. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah,
Amen.
Alma divarach yurte b'yamlich malchute v'chayehom uvyomechom uchaye dechol Beit Yisrael b'agala uvizman kariv v'imru Amen. Yehi shmei Rabba mevorach le'olam u'mei mayom Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei dekusha b'richu Leila minko birchata v'shirata Jush b'chata v'nechmata Damiram ba'alma v'imuru Amen. Yehi shlama Rabba min shemayim V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael Oseh shalom ben romav Huya aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imuru Amen. May the God who makes peace in the high heavens make peace here on earth and send comfort to all who are bereaved. And let us say, Amen. A newer poem to me, epitaph. When I die, give what's left of me away to children and old men that wait to die. And if you need to cry, cry for your brother walking the street beside you. And when you need me, put your arms around anyone and give them what you need to give me. I want to leave you something better than words or sounds. Look for me in the people I've known or loved, and if you cannot give me away, at least let me live in your eyes and not your mind. You can love me best by letting hands touch hands and by letting go of children that need to be free. Love doesn't die, people do. So what's all that's left of me is love. Give me away. We can lower the casket now. You all can be seated.
Well, actually, ladies and gentlemen, after they lower the casket, you're going to need to move out because they're going to have to strike the tent.
Right.
So the service has been concluded. You're welcome to stay until the cover's put on to also put additional earth in the grave. Would you like to thank the people that are on before I turn off?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.